Ladies and gentlemen, very good afternoon. I'm pleased to welcome you for this very, very important conversation, especially in light of recent developments. Manipur, as all of us know, has been suffering and burning for almost 2 years now. This is nearly unprecedented in the history of the country, but everything that has happened there on various counts is also unprecedented. The massive handover of arms, the way people have been massacred and butchered, children burnt alive, and a near total collapse of the machinery and of the government, which has brought us to a stage where many experts, including retired army generals, have said that it is a case of state failure. So today, we are very, very fortunate to have the very best experts from all the various divisions and departments of the government which run a state and a country. We are very fortunate that we have this illustrious and august panel, and I personally don't think it can get any better than this. I am most grateful to all the panelists, and I want to start with a heartfelt gratitude to former Home Secretary Mr. G.K. Pillai, who was the very first to agree to be on the panel, and everything flowed from there. But my gratitude only begins there, because immediately after that, every panelist that I reached out to said an immediate yes. General Shaukin Chauhan flew in specially from Pune just for this. The time that every panelist is putting here is simply priceless. Mr. Sanjiv Sood has been speaking on this issue, and he has been on another panel with me in December. Most grateful for him to have expressed everything that was required to be said. And last but definitely not the least, Justice Siddhart Mridul. Justice Mridul, soon after coming back from Manipur after his retirement as the Chief Justice of the Manipur High Court, gave a few interviews which gave you the confidence that still there are justices in the country who are doing everything that's required to ensure that there is law and order in the country and wherever they are posted. So before I begin, I actually want us all to give a standing ovation to our panelists for speaking up for Manipur for the last 2 years. Mr. Pillai was one of the first who came out on interview with Mr. Karan Thapar, said what needed to be said, that how there was a failure on part of the Home Ministry and the Home Secretary. General Shaukin Chauhan in interviews has said again and again about the state of affairs, and went on to the extent to say that the Riot Act should be read out. Justice Mridul has expressed his thoughts that immediately in December he had clearly said that there is a failure of politics and there is a clamor for president's rule in Manipur. Mr. Sood has very clearly stated things. Mr. Prashant, Bhushan, who will join us by about 4:15, 4:30, has also not only been vocal, but has now gone on to be the counsel for the tapes which emerged. So there are three big developments. Development number one, and in reverse order, the president's rule, the resignation of the chief minister, the tapes of Chief Minister Biren Singh. So again, without going forward, Let's please give a very big round of applause, a standing ovation to the speakers, because they are the hope for this country, and they are the righteous individuals and people of authority who this country needs as role models. So thank you all, gentlemen, and thank you for being here today. I also appreciate all of you who have showed up. We know we are fashionably late, and there's an Indian Standard Time which runs about half an hour, 45 minutes, sometime an hour late. So everyone who came on time and who's on the way, we are thankful and grateful for you also to show up for this important cause. To begin with, I want to request Mr. S.K. Sood to give an overview of the situation. And we had planned to keep this in an alphabetical manner, but we are starting with the alphabet S. So I want to start by requesting retired ADG from the Border Security Force, Mr. S.K. Sood, to start the conversation. And my speakers can stay on the dais or come to the podium as they prefer. Thank you very much.
Mr. Pillai, Justice Siddhart, Mridul, General Shaukin, Agnostos, and everyone who is present here, thank you so very much for having called me here to speak on this very important topic. Agnostos, in his opening remarks, said that we are the hope for this, for resolving this situation. In fact, it is only the hope that we keep surviving on. Otherwise, there doesn't appear to have been taken any concrete measure or steps to resolve the problem which has been festering for 21 months now. The beautiful state of Manipur appears to have been left at its own devices. The resignation that came about on 10th and the president rule that came about on I think 12th isn't really a proactive action to resolve the issue. The resignation came because of the issue of impending no confidence motion in the assembly and impending loss, and therefore the loss of faith that the Bahrain government and also by implication the central government would have faced. It also perhaps came because of the fact that a truth lab in Hyderabad has said that the samples on the audio tapes which supposedly say that Bahrain which supposedly contain the voice of Mr. Biren Singh matches 93% with his voice. And also because of the order given by the Supreme Court to carry out forensic examination of these particular tapes. So this Mr. Biren, who to my mind is the symbol of whatever is happening in the Manipur state, should have resigned much long ago, maybe on 3rd of May 23 itself, or at least on the day when those two ladies belonging to Kuki tribe were paraded on the streets of a particular town in Manipur. He should have gone. He has been let go by simple resignation. He should have been tried for the offense of his omission and commission in controlling the situation there. Now, to start with, it all started on the 3rd of May 23 with a set of violence that took place near Churachandpur town. For us, common people, it all started on 3rd of May, but actually it perhaps has started way back in 1891 when the census carried out by the British declared that the Meiteis were hill tribes. Meiteis were amongst the tribes of those areas. That continued till the time of independence. When the constitution was prepared, they were not included in the list of scheduled tribes. So that is their claim to being declared as a scheduled tribe. Now, they say that they were not declared scheduled tribes based on statement of a few amongst them who did not understand their ancient religion, ancient Sanamahi religion, and therefore the consent of majority of Meiteis were not taken, and therefore they should be given the status of ST. The main reason for which they want this ST status is the land, because as per the local laws prevalent in Manipur, the land cannot be brought in the hill areas which is inhabited by the tribal people. There's acute deficiency of land in valley, 11% only where the Meitei majority lives, remaining 89% or something is in the hills, and they cannot acquire land in those areas as per the land acquisition laws prevalent there. But then this judgment, which came on 27th of March, and the violence started on 3rd of May, the period in between perhaps should have been utilized by the government to explain to the people that this is not a final order. That order only said to consider their claim for being designated as scheduled tribe. The government, I am not aware whether they pleaded in the court or not. The government should also have stated in the court that twice in the past their claim to the ST status has been rejected by the government. Once in 1982, when the Registrar General said that they do not fulfill the criteria for being declared a scheduled tribe. And once again in 2001, when the then Congress government headed by Mr. Nipamcha Singh stated that the Meiteis are Kshatriyas, Hindu Kshatriyas, and therefore they do not fulfill the criteria of being categorized as scheduled tribes. It was followed by 3 laws that were introduced in the assembly in 2015. One of them, although all those laws were interconnected, but one of them was a problematic law which said Protection of Manipur People Bill 2015. It sought to include Meiteis amongst the indigenous people of Manipur state. That created apprehensions in the minds of tribals, hill tribes, and they thought that perhaps by declaring them, including them in the list of scheduled tribes, their rights will be infringed. They also became apprehensive because thereafter there were certain pronouncements by the VHP and RSS-funded organization which said the tribes which have converted to Christianity should not be included in the scheduled tribes. So these issues created apprehensions in the minds of tribal people that their rights will be infringed and their land will be taken over by by the dominant Meitei community, and the influence of Meitei's committees will further get enhanced. There are 3-4 committees which have been formed in the past. One was 1965 Lokur Committee, headed by the then Law Secretary. There was another headed by Mr. Dilip Singh Bhuria, who was an MP. And there was another high-level committee headed by Professor Khaka, who all laid down the traits for inclusion in the scheduled tribe category. And it has been a consistent view of the government of the day that the Meiteis do not fulfill this criteria, and therefore they should not be included. Having said that, the government of the day in Manipur consistently says that there is foreign interference in fomenting the problem in Manipur. If we look into the census figures, and they say that most of the cookies are foreigners. If we look into the census figures, in 1901, the cookies formed about 14.5% of the population of Manipur. And in 2011, they are about 16.2%. So there is slight increase in their percentage, but it is not as much as to say that they are that foreigners are influencing or fomenting the problem in Manipur. In my view, this stand is often repeated in order to divert attention from the internal problems which perhaps have been self-created by the people in power. I heard one of those seminars, I heard that on YouTube, wherein a panelist here, Justice Mridul, said, "I'm not sure, but I see an invisible hand," or words to that effect, in fomenting this problem. So perhaps there's an invisible hand. There are people who are interested in, did I use that word correctly, invisible hand? So there perhaps is a invisible hand, there perhaps are vested interests which are keen on fomenting trouble in this beautiful state of Manipur. And as early as in 2018, Mr. Biren Singh, in a regional India Today conclave, is supposed to have said that there hardly are any infiltrators. There are only 7 or 8 Rohingyas which have been apprehended. This was in 2018, the regional conclave of India Today. So illegal migrant issue is being used as a political game plan. And there's an advisory issued by the Ministry of Home Affairs in 2020, February 2020, which says that the refugees who are coming from Burma should not be given the status of refugees. They are illegal. They should be treated as illegal immigrants. And in fact, the state of Mizoram has said that they will not be able to declare them illegal infiltrators. So that is one. Then the issue of drugs. As it is, Manipur is located very close to the Golden Triangle, and there is a problem of drug in there. Churachandpur having the dubious distinction of having the highest number of HIV cases. Now, as per a study carried out in Ukhrul in 2014, the poppy cultivation, poppy otherwise grows in the wild. But as per this study, the organized cultivation of poppy is carried out due to indebtedness. And that study concluded that almost 12% of the population grows poppy because of in order to pay back the family debt. So 12% of them do that. Then there's another, in 2022, there was a MOU signed between National Botanical Research Organization of Lucknow and Manipur State Medicinal Plant Board. This was in August 22. And a contract was given to an organization called Indica Nutraceuticals. And it was found that this organization was recently formed and they had not registered themselves. And so this gives an indication that of that invisible hand, whether the drug issue is being highlighted. And then between 2017 to 23, there were 2,518 individuals arrested under the NDPS Act. Out of them, only 823 are cookies. 823 is quite a high number, but it is only 1/3. The remaining are 381 Maitis and 1083. This is between 17 and 23, the 6 years. So it is not that only cookies are involved in drug business. All communities cooperate with each other in carrying out this drug business. And the top level, and you must have heard of that famous additional SP, Brinda, who says that a person who was apprehended with almost 4,600 kgs of heroin, she was compelled to release him. And she resigned and returned her gallantry medal, and thereafter this person was granted bail, and he's now. So the poppy cultivation is a cooperative effort by all the communities involved. The topmost people are the highest, as per the report, they are the topmost people in the state who benefit the most. And at the bottom of the supply chain are the poor farmers who are being accused of cultivating drugs. Then the question of autonomy, which is the demand of cookies. They want now, and they have been repeated assertions that nothing less than autonomy. So if we go back to history again, even the merger of Manipur, at the time of merger of Manipur, it is stated that the reign of king of Manipur spread only in the valley. The hill portions were not included as part of his kingdom. Then there are other studies, one by a retired CRPF officer, another by 2 academicians who all say that the areas under the kingdom of Manipur were mainly in the valley itself. So the demand for autonomy emanates from this particular fact. And in 2003, all Tribal Students Union of Manipur submitted a memoranda to this effect to the government, that they should be given autonomy. This was in 2003, and then again in 2022 they asserted this this particular fact. And they also agitated against the statement of Biren Singh that land belongs to Mother Nature and not to any particular community. The demand for autonomy also emanates from the fact that the hill areas are extremely backward. There are hardly any development in those areas. I had 2 tenures in Chudachandpur, and 2 kilometers outside Chudachandpur, there was hardly any development. The Chudachandpur district hospital had extremely poor infrastructure. So, and in fact, the SP, the SDPOs of both of police and of the state administration were functioning from the headquarter town of Chudachandpur. They had never seen the remote areas of Anglip and other Siddhart and Bihang areas. They had never been to those areas. And there's a small town called Siddhart between the border town Bihang and Chudachandpur, 30 odd kilometers. At that point of time, it had taken me, at least 3-4 hours to reach that particular town from Chudachandpur, and just about 30 kilometers. I'm told the situation has improved quite a lot now. And then there's problem of extension of the 6th schedule also. Insofar as the security forces are concerned, we were it's a correct question. What are the security forces doing? Well, security forces perhaps are operating with their hands tied behind their back. Number one, they are being obstructed by various kind of civil organization or even militant organization, Arambai Tengol and Mira Paibes, who had a very good beginning. Mira Paibes are a social organization who had very good motive, but they are now obstructing operation of security forces in that particular area. And then they are also hamstrung by the fact that 19 police stations, I believe 6 more have been included, so 13 police stations in the Imphal Valley have, Armed Forces Special Power Act has not been applied in those areas. In the normal course, I would go by the argument that Armed Forces Special Power is a sort of excessive kind of arrangement. But then, in a situation where more than 6,000 weapons and a few lakhs of ammunition is looted as in handed over probably. So in those circumstances, it is necessary that the society is disarmed, that these weapons are recovered. Otherwise, the violence will keep happening in those areas unless these weapons are recovered. Now, the president rule having been imposed, I feel that the security forces perhaps will get more free hand to operate. Armed Forces Special Power Act should be applied uniformly all over the state, and the two warring tribes will not readily come to table together. One will have to involve negotiators, independent negotiators who do not have any vested interest in those areas. So what readily comes to my mind is that the Nagas, who have so far kept themselves away from the conflict, and also perhaps the what they call them Gaon Buddhas in those areas, who are very highly respected and whose voice is heard, they can be involved to convince their own communities to come to the negotiating table. Over 10,000 FIRs have been lodged, and last I heard was that investigation into hardly 6% of those FIRs has been started. 6%, मेरे ख्याल में 60 हुआ out of 10,000. So the victims who have suffered, they must get a closure. Otherwise, the wounds will keep festering. And then the issue of drugs, it has to be addressed. It has to be addressed not only by burning poppy crop, etc. It has to be addressed by providing them alternative means of livelihood, which can be medicinal plants, horticulture, cattle rearing, and so many other things which are also eco-friendly, which do not play with the ecology of that area. And all aspects of ST, granting ST status, all the committees that have been formed, they must be considered. And also the question of land reforms should be understood. I'm not touching upon the border management because I'm sure General Shaukin would address that appropriately. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Sood, for giving an overview and setting the context, which will now facilitate the conversation. I now have the privilege and honor to invite Justice Siddhart Mridul to speak. Just to give you a little bit of background and information about Justice Mridul, while he needs no introduction, former Chief Justice of the Manipur High Court. Justice Mridul started off as an advocate in Delhi in 1986, and he was then appointed as additional judge of the High Court of Delhi, and then as a permanent judge in 2009. And after 15 years of service in the Delhi High Court, Justice Mridul was recommended by the Collegium, Supreme Court Collegium, to be the new Chief Justice of High Court of Manipur. One of the most important things which Justice Mridul immediately did upon his arrival in Manipur was the restoration of internet services. Because for a very, very long time, many of the things we weren't even aware and things weren't coming out. Justice Mridul, it is an honor. I request you to please come and share of your time and your advice and what's the way forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I hold a brief, but I don't hold a brief for either the Maitis or the Kukis or the Nagas or the 34 other tribes who reside in Manipur. I hold a brief for Manipur as a whole. Mr. Sood has given us a historical backdrop which debunks most of the myths that are being circulated about why Manipur is burning and why is there constant carnage in Manipur and why has ethnic strife reached such alarming proportions that people from these communities who have lived next to each other as neighbors for a long time refuse to even acknowledge each other's presence. My brief, as I understand it, is that we have a problem with Manipur. Manipur has witnessed unprecedented violence since May of 2023. People have been displaced, people have been killed, women have been raped, children have been abducted. There is rampant extortion in the valley and in the hills. There is no rule of law or law and order in the state of Manipur. Who is responsible is an important aspect. The invisible hand The hand may not be so invisible after all. But the fact remains that I would rather concentrate on what needs to be done to restore peace and tranquility in a state which has green valleys and beautiful blue mountains. My introduction to Manipur came towards the latter half of my life, when I was chosen to head the judiciary in Manipur. And when I went to Imphal, when I flew to Imphal, I did all I could to understand the history and the socio-cultural ethos of the people of Manipur. But nothing had prepared me for what I witnessed in the 1 year, 1 month and 1 day that I was Chief Justice in the High Court of Manipur. Nothing could ever prepare me, and nothing will ever prepare anybody in the mainland, which is here, to comprehend, even begin to comprehend what the problems are that are faced by every Manipuri. Manipur has a glorious tradition of culture, dance, literature, sport. In fact, the sport of polo originated in Manipur. And if you look at their art and their dance, you will be enthralled, as I was while I was there. What is it then that has caused the people of Manipur to set their own homes ablaze? What is it? My sense is, and I put it to all of you here today, my sense is that it's purely economic. Whether it be the expectation of being included in the scheduled tribe, or whether it is to own land in the hills because they feel pressured in the confines of the valley, which is only 10% of the state, whether it is the inequity that they perceive they've been subjected to because they cannot own land in the hills, but everybody else can acquire land in the valley. Whatever it be, what we need to concentrate on now with the imposition of President's rule, and when I say we, apart from the executive, I mean all of us who care about Manipur, who care about India, is to make sure that law and order is restored, peace is restored, both in the valley and in the hills. For that, the first step that needs to be taken is for the government to make sure that all these illegally acquired arms are seized. Whatever steps need to be taken by the boots on the ground, the security forces, the paramilitary forces, the Manipur police, the army, no stone must be left unturned to recover all these looted, snatched, given away arms to various actors, state actors in Manipur. What needs to follow is the resolution to initiate a peace process with all the stakeholders. Every stakeholder in Manipur must be invited to the table so that there is a lasting solution to the differences that have arisen between them, principally on account of, in my view, as I said, economic factors. And from my stay in Manipur, I saw that apart from being employed by the government and by the hospitals. There is no employment in the state of Manipur. There is absolutely no employment. There is very little private enterprise. You cannot secure jobs for love, money or God in the state of Manipur. To make matters worse is the hyperinflation in the state of Manipur, where everything that costs 1 anna in Delhi costs 4 annas in Manipur, where the average income of a daily wager when I went to Manipur was 7,300 rupees. 7,300 rupees. And the High Court, amongst the first acts that we followed when I went to Manipur, was to make sure that the daily wagers received a minimum of 24,800 rupees just to keep body and soul together. So therefore, you can imagine the economic doldrums that the people of Manipur are in. And we must restore peace not only for the sake of their lives, but also for the sake of their livelihoods. And my sense is that the minute you provide livelihood to all the brilliant and gifted young people of Manipur, you will not find them falling prey to the diktats of the mafia who place illegal arms, sophisticated arms in their hands and let them run wild in the streets and in the villages, extorting everybody, threatening everybody with mayhem and murder, abducting them, killing them, maiming them, raping women, children. And this is regardless of which community you belong to. No community is exempt from the ire and the lawlessness of a handful of individuals who believe that they can cock a snook at the law and order and at the executive and let their own writ run large. So therefore, as I said in the previous conclave, I repeat myself that all of us here, all the people of India, whether you belong to Manipur or you don't, you belong to the Maiti community or you don't, you belong to the Kuki community or you don't, you are a Naga, you belong to Tamenglong, it doesn't matter. All of us must come together and make sure that we can look for a peaceful resolution to an issue which has been completely blown out of proportion, in my view, for predominantly underlying economic reasons. If there are questions at the end of the address of the gifted speakers who will follow me, I will willingly answer them. I believe I have spoken on Manipur a number of times about the situation, about the conditions antecedent and attendant today. And of course, there has been a change in as much as the Chief Minister has resigned and President's rule has been imposed in the state of Manipur. So there is a glimmer of hope that law and order will be restored. And umeed pe duniya kayam hai. I beseech all of you once again to do your bit to spread the word around that if all of us come together, we can get the people of Manipur together and put this horrid nightmare behind us. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Before I invite my next speaker, I also want to give a warm welcome to Advocate Prashant Bhushan. Thank you for joining us, sir. I would now like to have the honor of inviting Lieutenant General Shaukin Chauhan, General Chauhan has prepared a presentation for us. I'd request the support staff to please make that presentation come live on the screen. And while they do it, again, it is my honor to give a very brief introduction about Lieutenant General Shaukin Chauhan and why he is one of the most important people who can play the required role in resolving this crisis and transforming the state to a peaceful state. So General Chauhan, Lieutenant General Shaukin Chauhan, PVSM, AVSM, YSM, SM, VSM, and a PhD. You truly cannot get any better than this. Lieutenant General Shaukin Chauhan is the former Director General of Asaam Rifles, which again makes him an authority on this subject because it's the Asaam Rifles which has been posted in Manipur. Post-retirement, Lieutenant General Shaukin Chauhan was given the coveted appointment as the chairman of the ceasefire monitoring group in northeast Nagaland. Alumnus of the NDA, Defense Services Staff College, the Army War College, and the prestigious National Defense College. Lieutenant General Shaukin Chauhan is a glimmer of hope because amongst the army, he has been one of the most vocal and honest about the entire issue. And it was one of his interviews to Lieutenant General P.R. Shankar, which first was my introduction to him. And I also want to thank Gunners Shot for doing these interviews repeatedly. I now invite Lieutenant General Shaukin Chauhan to please make his address and help us with finding a solution in this long journey, and also share all the truths which he has in previous interviews. General Chauhan.
Thank you very much. Firstly, I'd like to convey my gratitude to Agnostos Theos for inviting me here. As he said, I've come from Pune. And actually, I was most intrigued when he called me because there are a lot of special and much more important people in Delhi. But to invite me here, I thought I must prepare a presentation that makes some sense. Not in any other manner other than the fact that seeing the sprinkling of people who are here, a lot of people from the Northeast, it's just some few issues which I feel that we in Delhi often forget or simply don't have any knowledge of. I have, as Agnostos Theos said, spent a lifetime in the Northeast. From a young officer, where I fought in Ukhrul, often protecting the Kuki tribes against the NSC and IM in 1988, 89, 90. I have gone back to the Northeast 5 times. The last was as the Director General of the Asaam Rifles, and then immediately as the Chairman of the Ceasefire Monitoring Group, where I had the honor of actually, or the good fortune of actually sitting down with the NSC and tribes to find an answer to the very vexed problem of how to get a final solution. I was also able to convince self-styled General Khango to break up from the NSC and Khaplang group when Khaplang died and to come into India and to join the ceasefire process, and he signed the ceasefire first with me. Just an anecdote before I start the final presentation is when I asked Khango that why are you still fighting in the 70th year or 72nd year of our independence? And what are you still fighting for? Khaplang is dead. He said, sir, I will keep fighting, and he's 86. I will keep fighting till the entire Konyak clan is united. And the other issue that I want to tell you is, when I was the Director General of the Assam Rifles, I had gone to the Chief Minister of Mizoram, Dr. Lalthan Hawla. This was January, February 2017. And I told him, I said, there's a lot of movement of people from Myanmar, from the Chin state into Mizoram. May we request you to tell the police and to tell your people to prevent this infiltration coming in. And what he told me then actually led me to do a larger study into what this issue was. He said, General, those are my people. They're my brothers. No Chin, because I am a Chin myself, no Chin will ever be sent away. They are welcome to stay with us. Across the hills are our ancient lands, our ancient forests. Those are my lands, and I'm not going to let them go away. So you must understand, before we start, with what empathy, with what sympathy, and what knowledge we must begin to understand the problem of the Northeast. And therefore, a small primer, if you all don't mind. Yeah, next slide, please. Peace in Manipur. Now, what does this peace really mean? What has actually happened that we will get this peace? Could you put up the slide? Yeah. What has actually happened? Has there been peace before? I've been in Manipur for 15 years before this. I've been fighting in Manipur from 88. From 1961, 62 onwards, there has been no peace in Manipur. So it isn't a situation today that is worsened. It's a situation that was always bad. It's not today's problem. It is a problem of our lack of understanding. It is not today's political problem. It is a problem of a lack of knowledge that we really have. Yeah, next slide. So the issue is like this, that what is the historical root of this problem? And we must understand this root if we are to go any further here. Because unless we understand what actually happens there, we will never be able to understand the problems of Manipur. There is, as the Chief Justice said, as well as ADG Sood said, there is an ethnic diversity. There's a territorial dispute. Whether the territorial dispute is between the Tangkhuls and the Kukis, whether the territorial dispute is with the Maitis and the hills, there is an issue. There's a lack of understanding. So let me just try and cover it. And of course, there's an ongoing insurgency. It started in 62, 63. But from 49, 50 onward, there were rumblings when the last king of Manipur abdicated and became a part of the Republic of India. There have been issues that Manipur should have been independent and should not have been coerced, as they felt, to join the Republic of India. So we must understand, it didn't happen 2 years ago. It didn't happen 4 years ago. It happened much, much earlier than that. Yeah, go ahead. Now this is the Northeast. Northeast of India, it's a huge, it's 8% of the landmass of India and only 2% of our country, of the population of India. Most of the states have just one Lok Sabha seat, one Rajya Sabha seat. Manipur has 2. But otherwise, all the other northeastern states have one Lok Sabha seat, one Rajya Sabha seat. So pre this problem, it was never an issue with any dominant political party to even think of going to the Northeast because the seats were too little. They dealt with the problem from Delhi. Yeah, go ahead, please. So there is a diverse situation, there is a difficult border. I've been the head of Assam Rifles. I can tell you that the most difficult border to control, much more difficult than Kashmir, because I've had 5 tenures in Kashmir also, is this border of the Indo-Myanmar border. I heard Yash, my old director, my old colleague, say once that it's a deeply divided line. It divides, if I can quote you, homes. It goes through, the line goes through a home. It goes through Konyak homes in eastern Nagaland. It goes through the Somra tracks. It goes through Mizoram, where the Chins on both sides are the same people. So unless we understand that this issue is not about today, it's a deep-rooted tribal issue of insecurity. These are tribes which were independent tribes before they got amalgamated in the larger British Empire, and then further into independent India or into Myanmar. These tribes have been independent. They have their own culture, as our Article 371A, B, C, D, E specifically says that the law of the tribal laws are supreme within their society. So we have to understand that these are articles of our constitution agreed by us when they accepted to be a part of the Republic of India. Yeah, go ahead, please. I spoke about the ethnic ties. Those shawls denote the different colors of the types that are there. I see one beautiful, some of the ladies and the men wearing such beautiful colors. It is only to show you that we belong to a tribe which has this color. This color is worn with pride. Its color is worn to show you that I belong to this tribe. I love my culture and this is what it is. And unless we understand, we in Delhi sitting here, understand what it means to them. It's their whole life. They don't want to be, sucked into this larger country without losing their culture. They want to maintain that too. And I have spoken about this at every forum, that yes, you are a part of our country. But yes, our constitution is large enough to tell you that you can retain all your customs and your traditions. And some are, as Justice Mridul said, fabulous customs, fabulous dances, fabulous culture. I could go for hours to tell you how wonderful this culture of the Northeast is. But that's not the aim of this lecture. Yeah, go ahead, please. I recently visited Kampuchea, that is Cambodia and Vietnam. And let me talk about the cross connects of India and the Northeast with Southeast Asia. Yeah, go ahead. Now you will see that every tribe that has come into India is actually a tribe that has immigrated into India. They've come to search for better lands, for water, for agriculture, and for food. It started 1,000 years ago. This is not me telling you, it's history. You just have to read history to know that these tribes, all the tribes, have come from different parts of Myanmar, different parts of Southeast Asia, from 1,000 years ago. Just as our culture, the Hindu culture, went from here to Cambodia to build the Angkor Wat, the same situation happened this way. Go ahead, please. I just sort of put it on a slide to make it show you how these tribes moved during various parts of their existence. Yeah, go ahead, please. Go slowly. You can just see. how Buddhism spread, how they came in, is a part of our history. It's a part of the rich tapestry of the land with that we live in. And we should actually accept that we belong to a very rich country, a rich culture. And everybody cannot get amalgamated to the same situation. But now let's go to the 1820s. Manipur had been conquered by the Burmese Empire. That map will show you the Burmese Empire. Manipur was a part of the Burmese Empire. And it had also, this Burmese Empire had extended to Upper Assam. And it was the king of Manipur who went to the British and said, please come in and save my kingdom and give this kingdom back to me. So the three wars that started from 1824 onwards was the amalgamation of this land and Burma at that time into the larger colonial empire of Britain. Go ahead, please. The map shows you how after each war, it was amalgamated into the larger colonial empire run from Calcutta, which was that time the capital. So that's how the amalgamation took place. Places which were never ours came into ours. There was a movement of people, free movement of people, because they were a part of the same empire. These were not people coming to infiltrate. They were not people coming to destroy. They were people to settling down. They were finding their way in unsettled lands. Go ahead, please. So seriously, when you come to this, you realize that this amalgamation of people happened not now. It hasn't happened over the last 2 years. It's happened over the last 200 years. And once again, this is not the history that I have written. It's merely history that I've studied to set down to you and to tell you all that please understand. The infiltrators you're talking about, the people you're talking about, the tribes you're talking about haven't come in now. They haven't come in to disturb you now. They have been there for hundreds of years. Go ahead, please. So this map actually shows you what the Northeast was in 1947. The independent kingdom of Manipur has existed for the last 1,000 years. But what about the rest? To the north of Manipur is the Nagaland, which is shown as the Naga tribal area. To the further north is Arunachal. South of that were the Lushai Hills, which is now Mizoram, and then Tripura. There were no states at that time. There were no secure boundaries at that time. People moved freely. And they settled freely. And therefore you find parts of a tribe in one place or the other. Yeah, go ahead, please. Yeah, go ahead, please. So this is exactly a map which tells you, which shows you clearly. You see the area of Kachin, you see the area of the Chins, you see the area of Manipur, Mizoram, and how clearly people have moved from one point to the other. So if the Mizos are also part of the Chinzo people, the Chins and the Zomi tribes. The Kachins are Chins also. So are the Kukis, also Chins. There are Kukis here, there are Chins inside Burma. So this spreading has not taken place now. Why are we fighting this situation today and destroying the future of the next 5 generations when this has not happened now? They're not illegal people. So please don't get caught up in this propaganda of illegality or for people who are coming in to grab land. It's not like that. It's simply an understanding of history. Yeah, go ahead, please. Now, here's the history of Assam. What were the issues in Assam? Why did Assam explode the way it did? This is all there. It's not something I've taken out. Why did the Ulfa problem happen? Why did the Assam problem happen? It happened for the same reason. The people were insecure After the 1971 war, when so many refugees came and they came into Assam, the people of Assam said, we're going to lose our culture. And therefore, by the 80s, the problem of Ulfa, the creation of Ulfa, and the creation of this problem started from there. Go ahead, please. So I was reading this wonderful book by Robert Kaplan, The Revenge of Geography, which says a good place to understand the present and to ask questions about the future is on the ground, traveling as slowly as possible. I urge you all, because I see a very knowledgeable audience, that travel slowly here. Think, there are no solutions. I'm not here to give you any solution. I'm merely here to tell you that this problem cannot be resolved by the changing of one chief minister or the changing of one law. We need a larger thought process. Go ahead, please. Yeah, go ahead, further. This actually tells you the tribes of each state. I've taken a lot of time to prepare for this, to tell you all that each state has 5, 6, 7, 10, there's 16 tribes in Nagaland. They're equally those many tribes, 24 plus in Manipur. Some tribes are small, some tribes are slightly larger. But that doesn't mean those tribes lose their own culture. Go ahead. These are the boundaries. They have boundaries with 10% of the national boundaries, 25% of the borders within the Northeast. So obviously, if they're sharing these international boundaries with the other countries, they share with China or Tibet, they share with Myanmar, they share with Bangladesh, they share with Bhutan, they share with Nepal, obviously there will be a movement of people. That does not make this an evil empire. And there should be no reason why we should be wasting our today and tomorrow on a situation which has happened so many centuries back. Yeah, go ahead, please. So this is the democracy. Just a slide that tells you, look, there is a difference of religion. There is an issue, but there is no large game plan here. It's not something that happened today, it's something that happened 100 years ago. I remember going to visit a village that was celebrating 75 years of Christianity when I was the chairman of the ceasefire monitoring group in Nagaland. And they said, sir, we were one of the last villages to embrace Christianity. So it's not today, it's 75 years ago that this happened. Some tribes did embrace Christianity 150 years ago. It cannot be our problem today. We have to embrace these people, embrace their culture and say, come to this larger mainland because we are not going to lose ourselves. We will only be richer if we understand the larger and beautiful fabric of the Northeast. Go ahead, please. Go ahead. So these are different perspectives that I wanted to give you, of how things happened. I know I don't have the time, but I just want to tell you that each issue is involved with another issue. You cannot have peace in Manipur if you don't have peace in Nagaland, if you don't have peace in Myanmar, if you don't have peace in South Assam, if you don't have peace in Arunachal. The reason is these tribes have moved. What does the NSC and IM want? There is the talk of Nagalim. What is Nagalim? Amalgamation of the lands where the Nagas stay. That's what Congo told me also. All these tribes want to live together. So these are issues which we must realize will continue to happen. But they cannot be greater problems today. Go ahead. Now this is the impact of Myanmar's political. If Myanmar has Chin state, it has the Sagaing state, it has all these states bordering us, any instability in Myanmar will affect the states bordering Myanmar. Why? Because people will move inside. We are in that part of the world. It's a difficult world. We're in a difficult neighborhood. But that difficult neighborhood does not mean we destroy ourselves here. Or we get caught up in this larger political issue. It is not such an insidious issue. Yeah, go ahead. So the conflict in Myanmar, who are they? Why are they fighting? We know why they're fighting. They want independence. The Kachins want independence. The Chins want independence. The Rakhine state wants independence. The Chinese are interfering. There is the Tatmadaw, which is the Burmese army, which is fighting them and can't control them. So the borderlands of Myanmar and India in Myanmar are places where insurgent tribes, insurgent groups have their camps. You ask what are the army doing? When you have a 1700 plus kilometers to hold, you can't hold it with 22, 23 units. You need 100 units. You can't fence it because tribes have homes on both sides. You have to amalgate them using the heart as the weapon and not the weapon, not a rifle as a weapon. It has to come from in between. And of course, people will take advantage of the disturbances in areas. That's what people are all alike. They will take advantage. It's for us not to get caught up in this larger issue. Yeah, go ahead. The ethnic armed organizations of Myanmar, which are fighting the Burmese army, or the Tatmadaw, which is fighting the government. This disturbance is going to continue for a very long time. Movement of one chief minister is not going to change anything. We have to understand that in the Northeast, we have to interact with everybody. Whether it is the Kachin army, whether it is the Chin National Army, whether it is the Three Brother Alliance, whether it is any group that is bordering India has to be interacted by us. At the same time, we have to understand the insecurities of the Chins or the Mizos. We have to understand the Kukis and how they're related to the Chins, and how Mizoram will always feel disturbed if something happens to the Chins. And the Kukis are Chins. They belong to the same ethnic tribe. You can't shut off people. You can't shut off borders. You have to look at them at a larger issue to understand why and what you can do. There are no patchwork solutions here. There is an overall solution of getting people together. Yeah, go ahead, please. Yeah, go ahead. So these are the impact on the northeast of India. The disturbances in Myanmar will disturb us. It will happen. It's not something we can control, but we must make sure that we understand the disturbances and talk to them. I have personally gone to Naypyidaw. I have personally spoken with the Home Secretary, the Home Minister, the people around, and tried our best to make them understand our insecurities, our national security issues. Go ahead, please. Yeah, go ahead, please. Yeah. Now, do I have a lot of slides? Go ahead, please. How does an insurgency start? The center of gravity of any insurgency are the people inside it. Yash is nodding his head. This is something we used to always talk about, that the center of gravity on which every insurgency moves are the people. So the people are in the center. What are the issues involved? Issues is lack of governance, lack of education, and a whole lot of other issues which we know exist in the Northeast. And because these things exist, the next issue is, yeah, go ahead, are the various insurgent groups. These insurgent groups exist there. These insurgent groups control the situation there. They control the narrative there. We have to disarm, as the Justice said, every insurgent group. We have to bring their weapons inside. We have to bring the arms, ammunition, explosives, everything inside. We cannot have peace if you only disarm the Arambai Tengal or the Maiti Lipun. You have to disarm everybody. Everybody has to be convinced. Because every group that has come there is seen as a protector of its tribe. And if it's a protector of its tribe, then you cannot separate that group from its people. I hope I'm right, sir. You have been in this situation for a long time. But that is the issue. Every tribe has an insurgent group fighting for its rights. And I have amalgamated every insurgent group here. Go ahead, please. We'll just go ahead, go to the last one. Yeah. Now you see here, why this is important is, this is the Indo-Myanmar border. There are no troops here, no Burmese army here. So there's no one to help us. This is the Assam Rifles out here, 25 units over 770 kilometers, 1770 kilometers. How will you prevent people from coming? Full of jungles, full of mountains, full of water, full of fast-flowing rivers, during monsoons, absolutely uncrossable. You have to strengthen these organizations. So don't let anyone tell you that a fence will help. It won't. Because the fence will be removed immediately. Why? Because the people are being divided. We have to find a better solution. This is about the Arambai Tengol. It's a mighty activist organization founded in 2020 by the state's titular king. He's a Rajya Sabha MP, Laishemba Sanjova. But eventually what was it? To protect mighty interests, cultural or otherwise. And why did the people think they needed this protection? That is the insecurity in which people live, as the Chief Justice said. Go ahead, please. Go further, please. Yeah, go further. Just one back, just go back. The insurgent groups are woven into the life of all these states. They control the narrative. They control the crime. Villages sponsor their children to join these insurgent groups because they are seen as protectors, not as criminals. Till this narrative changes, we cannot change the security situation there. Go ahead, please. Go ahead. Everyone's talked about this. We are aware of this, so I won't cover this at all. Go ahead, please. What are the, no, go back. Just what are the key takeaways? Firstly, historical land disputes. We have to start working on these historical land disputes. You can't sandpaper it. You have to get people to sit down together, as the Chief Justice said, and as the ADG Sood said, and solve each and every problem. It's solvable. If the South Africans, the whites, and the blacks could sit down in a committee of reconciliation, Maitis and Kukis and the Nagas can definitely sit down together. We have to. And we have to do it now. You can't leave and now say 10 years later we'll go through another greater problem. That can't happen. Second, ethnic, go back please. Ethnic identity and autonomy. Everyone looks to preserve their ethnicity. But eventually they have to be a part of the larger home. Political representation and power sharing. As I said, some of these states have only one Lok Sabha seat, one Rajya Sabha seat, one Lok Sabha seat. We have to get more representation. Unless they have representation here, we will not solve the problem there. Perceived economic disparities. Chief Justice has said very clearly what the economic disparities are. 4 times the cost of an item in this part of India is 4 times the cost there. And it's not just the transportation cost. It's the insurgent tax. So if they don't pay tax to the government of India, they're paying 25% of their income to the insurgent groups. And they're paying it willingly because they are seen as protectors, not as criminals. Militant groups and armed conflicts. Every militant group must be disarmed. We must get their weapons in. There is no good terrorist group. Am I right here? Yes? We have done these experiments. I have been in Kashmir. We started with one group and we realized what a great mistake we had done. And we shut it down. We did the same in Nagaland and Manipur. We shut those down. There is no government-sponsored terrorist group because every terrorist group eventually has its own agenda. If you give arms to anybody for illegal operations, those arms will be used for much more than that. A weapon is power. And you give it in the hands of people who don't understand or who don't have the training to utilize that power. So let us not create any more insurgent groups to go and fight the other insurgent groups. That doesn't exist. Militarily, it's a bad situation. Cultural difference and social dynamics, we have to sit together. We have to understand that we are different. We have different languages, different songs, different colors, different dances. But eventually we are humans who have to live together. I would urge every one of us to think about this and to urge the government, get people together. Get the youth together. You cannot leave the youth to think that they can sacrifice the next 3 generations of this. The world is going very, very fast. We cannot go backwards. Yeah, go ahead, please. So these issues, they're actually non-issues. There is a larger issue which we must think about. Go ahead. My recommendations: strengthening law and security, neutralize the armed factions, prevent arms influx, implement President's rule, which has happened, strict law enforcement, supply chain security. The Chief Justice said so. You have to bring goods and the people must be able to live there. You can't have a bottle of fuel costing 500 rupees being sold on the main streets of Imphal. That happens, Chief Justice? That happens. Go ahead, please. Immediate reconciliation, community peace dialogues, rehabilitation of displaced people. Get them back. Get them to their homes. Don't sacrifice more people. Local and youth leadership. Eventually, it's the youth, and I see so many of these young people here, eventually it's the youth that is going to change the power dynamics. We must empower them. It cannot be the answers of old men who've lived their lives. It has to be the youth. Prevent hate speech, encourage responsible reporting. We have the media here. Please be responsible. Write only once you understand. Don't write to create one more problem. Go ahead, please. Immediate political dialogue with everybody in Myanmar. Get them together. I have spoken to the Arakan Army. I have spoken to the Kachin Liberation Army. I have spoken to the Chin National Army. I have spoken to get peace. If I can speak, so can you. So can the government of India. And I'm certain we are speaking at every level. We just have to make them understand. High-level talks must happen. Yeah, go ahead, please. So this is again from the same book, The Revenge of Geography. The smaller the world becomes because of technology, the more every place in it becomes important. 50, 60, 70 years ago, Northeast was not so important because we felt it was far away and didn't matter. Today, every issue, just like that small watch, when you take it apart and you try and put it back, you can't put it back if one part is lost. That's the case of India today. Every part has to go back in the right place for it to function properly. Thank you so much.
General Chauhan, thank you very, very much for that presentation and a really much needed deep dive and insights into the issue and also how to resolve it, because that is the other very important thing that we need to achieve from this discussion is how to resolve this. I now have the pleasure and honor of requesting and inviting Mr. Gopal Krishna Pillai to come and speak. Mr. Gopal Krishna Pillai, as we all know, is the former Home Secretary. So there cannot be anyone better to speak on this issue from a national security perspective, from the nation perspective. And as a nation, we should be most grateful towards Mr. Pillai for being vocal and honest about what has been happening, what the government's attitude has been. And I just want to highlight one very important aspect which I think can play a very big role, is that Mr. Pillai belongs to the Kerala cadre, and he belongs to Kerala. And I think the solution may also lie in Kerala, because if we can make this entire country educated, illuminated like Kerala, we may have a country which is sans all the communal violence and all the grabbing and snatching that's going on. So, Mr. Pillai, it's an honor, and I'd request you to please come and take your time. And may I request you to give a small round of applause to Mr. Pillai on the spot.
I think you've listened to a galaxy of very eminent speakers who put the issue in one sense, a local perspective, a larger perspective, going back centuries. I'm trying to look at, I'll pick up some of the threads which they've mentioned. What I want us to understand in one sense, you had in 1993 the Kuki-Naga clashes. I think over 1,000 people were killed. In May 2023, just a little over 200, 250 people were killed. Nobody remembers the Kuki-Naga clashes. It never lasted for 21 months. The clashes took place. The state machinery acted. Peace was there. There was displacement. Some villages were evacuated. Kukis migrated, bulk of them, Kukis migrated to other parts of Manipur. And life went on as, you might say, normal, again, a few days later. You had the Kukis and the Paithas clashing, I think in 96, 97, and so on. Again, you had hundreds killed. Again, the state, what I call the authority of the state, imposed itself. It didn't look at whether they were Kukis, they were Paithas. Today they're all called Kukis by the Meithes, but they're a whole set of different tribes. But again, some migration, some evacuations took place. Kukis migrated here, there, and things settled down again. Nobody had this issue of Manipur as it is today. What is different about this situation today? The situation arose. I'm not wanting to go into who is to blame and so on. I think there's enough been written about it. I've myself written about it. If you indulge in what I call demonizing a portion of a state, the repercussions will be there in the years to come. And that is what we are seeing. That you lose the authority of the state to restore law and order, because trust has been lost. And therefore, what some of my speakers have mentioned earlier in the past, it is important to slowly restore that measure of trust. Kukis and Nagas have fought, Kukis and Meiteis have fought, Kukis and Paiteis have fought. First time, Kukis and Meiteis have fought. There was never any historical evidence of a Kuki-Meitei clash in recorded history. This was a manufactured narrative which came about in the last 3-4 years by saying Kukis are infiltrators, Kukis are terrorists, Kukis are narco-terrorists, Kukis are X, Y, Z, etc., etc. And this build-up of this actually created the situation into which the May 3rd is just a situation where the whole thing exploded. There is also a second aspect which many people have not written about, many people have not even talked about much, because the media itself, to an extent, has not focused upon this. What also took place on the night of May 3rd, 4th, etc., was that all Meitei Christian churches in the Imphal Valley were all destroyed. And to the evidence that I have, about 18,000 Meitei Christians were all reconverted back to Hinduism, Ghar Vapsi, under the pressure of the gun. They said, you either reconvert or you're going to die. So there was another angle to this, which is actually in one sense what I call as the national angle, the national security angle, getting subservient to another issue which almost for the first time is really coming into the Northeast in a major way. And it's important to understand this, because that is what has really, in one sense, resulted in this situation where 21 months of, you have this total situation which any other part of India, the government would have been thrown out the next day. If I want to give you an example of what happened in Manipur, it is like saying people in Delhi, in Greater Kailash, Haskas, you name it, South Delhi, Lutyens Delhi, if they want to go to Haryana, UP, Rajasthan, etc., they cannot go by road. They have to go to Indira Gandhi National Airport and fly out to Lucknow, Jaipur, and so on and so forth. This is what has happened to 50% of the population. And on the other side, you have got, on the Kuki side, if they want to go for any medical attention, they can't come to the state capital, which means they can't come to All India Institute of Medical Science, they can't come to Safdarjung Hospital, RML, they have to go to the neighboring state, Aizawl, and then to Guwahati for treatment. And this has happened for the last 21 months with both central and state governments. The double-engine Sarkar not really functioning at all. And the media, in one sense, has contributed a lot to the cover-up of what was happening on the ground. Because you didn't cover that the people who are displaced in the camps still remain almost without hardly any attention from any financial assistance from the state government, in spite of all the money which has been said to have been dispersed. You got Supreme Court case. I was just asking talking with him. You had the Supreme Court, which took up cases and then did nothing. They appointed 3-member women judges of the Supreme Court to look at the compensation and relief for all. And in effect, really nothing. The only thing they did was set up the SIT for all those rape and murder cases, but never monitored it so that you don't have any feedback on what really happened. Many of you may have forgotten all about it. There was a judicial commission set up by the state government with a retired judge of the High Court to go into what were the causes of the riots, whose lapse, whose fault was it, and so on. Have you heard about the Judicial Commission? It was supposed to give its report last November, never gave the report. Given a 6 months extension, they haven't done any work at all. So you have a Judicial Commission which is supposed to, at least if the Judicial Commission had said there is a responsibility of X, Y, Z, some action would have been taken. But the Judicial Commission has not done its work. And no media has pointed out saying that why is the Judicial Commission there at all if you are not willing to do your work? What is so much work that they have to do that they can't do it in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, to at least give an interim report saying that this is our findings after visiting Manipur and any other place they want to go? Everybody has forgotten about the entire Judicial Commission. You can say there are lots of Judicial Commission reports. In the past also, nothing has happened. But nothing has, at least you must be able to put out the report. If you don't put out the report, you are actually what shall I say? The people of Manipur have been let down. Not only have people who are displaced within the state of Manipur, there are people displaced who have come to Delhi. I think about between 1,200 to 2,000 people are living in Delhi. And there's no chance of going back. I know that the general mentioned that, one of the first things you have to do is to get them back. There is no way that they are going to go back till the trust is built up between the communities. And that element of trust, which is to be built up in the communities, is going to take some time, because it's a feature of what we call, and General put out, the ethnic identity. The ethnic identity is itself a matter in which everybody looks inwards. My tribe, my clan, over everything else. And because of that feature which is a speciality of the Northeast, which is its strength of the Northeast, it also builds up a lot of community strength. It also requires a certain element of what I call socialization among the communities to build trust. I know many of you who are in rural areas of Manipur, and I've talked to many of them in the villages. And many of them have said who stayed in this is a Kuki village, and there's a Naga village maybe 3 kilometers away. 50 years they've lived village here, village there. They don't know anybody in the other village. Nobody has ever gone and visited that village, etc. Whereas you won't find that in the rest of India. Rest of India, villages are there, people walk across, they go across, there's intercommunication which is all there, which is not there. And this issue of Manipur, I think it's Manipur only restricted to the valley, whether the hills belong to the Manipur state. I think historically we've got lots of evidence. With even Manipur existed even, there was at some point it existed even in the, the Kuba Valley and went up to Mandalay. There are lots of Manipuris who've got their relations and their cousins and relations there. It's been a mix for all communities. Everybody has moved across, up and down. But today we are living in India. Whether we like it or not, there is an international boundary, and we've kept the understanding of keeping what we call soft borders is primarily because we know that communities have this relationship across, whether it's in Nagaland. I know I think it's, I forget the name, it's the, in that Lunglei, not Lunglei, that in Mon district, the chief of that tribe in India, he is actually the chief on 8 villages here and 4 villages in Myanmar. He asked me, he said, which stupid person in India drew the boundary through the middle of my house? We can say it's the British did it. But the soft border is because, as far as the people are concerned, India-Myanmar border doesn't exist because they've lived like this for the last 1,000 years. And just because you draw an international boundary doesn't make it. So there is this need for communities to start engaging much more. We talk of Northeast, we talk of various tribes, there are still many of them who don't know enough about even other tribes in the Northeast. The large percentage, I think, if I'm not mistaken, something like 10% of the population of the Northeast is now in the rest of India. You go to Delhi, you go to Bangalore, you go to Pune, you go to Chennai, and so on and so forth, hundreds and thousands. If I'm not, there's even a football tournament in Delhi played by the Tangkuls, because there are so many Tangkuls here, they formed, I think, 12 football teams, and they run a football tournament in Delhi. That's the number of people who have moved out because of lack of opportunities there. They've come. Very good. It's good that they've come out. They've prospered economically. Some of them will go back with experience and expertise and go back and improve their villages back home. But I thought I just mentioned this issue that the points which are the key issues, and I think we should start with the problems that, shall we say, started now, because I'm not talking about the Naga issue, which I'll come into that. It's at the back of all the issues. If tomorrow, I'm just giving as an example, if Kangpokpi district is abolished and merged with Senapati district, another Manipur ethnic conflict, which may be even worse than what you have seen in 2023. So one has to be careful about issues that can come and which you try to prevent it from coming, because till you have solved these issues, but they are at the back of the problem. And there would be vested interests who don't want this. If I'm losing power, if I want this thing, etc., I put up that issue and create a problem. And again, now you've got, instead of Kuki-Meitei clashes, you've got Kuki-Nagas will fight you. And we have to try and prevent that. We have to look at how we can move forward. And so if you look at 2 or 3 clear issues, one, which was in the narrative, cookies are not part of Manipur. I think there's enough evidence to show that cookies are part of Manipur, they're part of Nagaland and so on. The evidence is to show that they are part of Manipur and they've been there pre-independence, and they are Manipuris. And Manipur has the great advantage that everybody speaks Manipuri. They speak their own dialect. The Nagas speak their own dialects. but everybody, in the whole of Manipur, everybody speaks Manipuri. Even Muiwa speaks Manipuri. So they've got the common language as one base, and now they have to, all the misunderstandings that have come have to, not by one person, but by independent studies in terms of the population, in terms of illegal migration. How much actually illegal migration is taking place? 2,000, 4,000? We know about, there are about 25 to 30,000 in Mizoram of people who have come because there's a civil war on the other side. Anytime there's a civil war on that side, people are going to come this side. If the Myanmar army bombs a particular Chin village this side, they're not going to wait for the bomb to fall on their head. They're going to run across the border. And they go back also. They don't, everybody likes to go back to his village. Nobody wants to come and stay in a foreign village, even though we might have relations and so on. They like to go back to their village and their farms and so on and so forth. So what are the numbers which are involved? Can we get a survey done? Find out what are the actual numbers and find out how many of these are, what I say, going to be permanent in India, or they're going to go back as soon as the situation improves on the other side. Then you had the allegation, and I'll put it allegation because till the proof is there, that the number of cookie villages in the forests have increased from whatever, 300%, 700%, etc. Some studies, and I'm not saying, I'm just looking at some of the way cookie villages have formed and reformed. Some have come because, in actual fact, the villages as they moved, and many of them are abandoned villages. If you go today and you see there's nobody there in the villages, quite a large number of them. In some small sample studies which have been done by certain research scholars, they said almost 50 to 60% of so-called number of villages are abandoned villages. How is the government policy of under Manrega and so on and so forth, how is that encouraging people to form more and more villages? So again, you are number is showing, but actual population again is, you've got 100 people and they form one village, if become 2 villages or 3 villages, still you have 100 population. So it's not the way it is put out that is 300% increase and therefore, the Maithis will get swamped by the population. The issues which mentioned, land, is an issue which is, you might call it perception, but it's a perception of the majority population that they are being discriminated against because we can't buy land in the hill districts, but the people in the hill districts can come and buy land in us, which is much smaller area. You might say that's the law, that all that is fine, but there is a perception, there is a sense of discrimination, and one has to examine it and solve it politically through dialogue. If you don't solve it, you will always have problems again and again. You can't compare 1 acre of land in the valley to 1 acre of land in the hill. I agree. It's much more difficult forest areas. Again, the forest areas itself, for those who know it, there are, reserved forests, there's protected forests, there's what is called civil forests. There are different types of forests where different types of rights of people are there, the villagers who occupy those forests. These all need to be discussed, clarified. People have to sit down, have neutral people coming in, explaining what is the issue, see where the issues are and try to do it. Because if you don't do it, all these just remain like... And the media has a great role to play in this. Because you have to say that this is what is the actual ground reality. Not say that, if the number of villages has gone up 300%, it's not 300% population. But that is the insinuation, that is the narrative that is being put, that because the number of villages has gone up by 3, the population has gone up by 3. But if you see that the way villages are created in the cookie chieftains, this thing, with the village authority and so on, it's not that the population has gone up by 3 times. But that narrative has to come out by people writing articles, through field visits and seeing what is the actual situation on the ground. If you don't do that, then you get this false narrative which is being pushed by interested parties. That forms the main basis for that. ST status for Metis. All this hullabaloo, you can only get scheduled tribe status if the ST Commission recommends ST status for the Metis to the Government of India. It's not dependent on the courts, it's not dependent on the state government, it's not even dependent on the central government. It's the ST Commission. So whoever wants and says that I am a scheduled tribe, he has the right to make an application before the ST Commission. The ST Commission will look at it and take the decision. Nobody has to get worried. There are very set, clear guidelines by which you can become an ST. I can't become an ST even if I jump and shout as much as I want. There is very clear, if you see the ST commissions as earlier in the last 5 years, 10 years, how scheduled tribes have been notified or recommended by them, you will see the criteria which they have given. And this is what, again, the media has to put, saying that these are the criteria, these are this. If the Metis feel they meet that criteria, sure, please do go ahead, apply. And the ST Commission is very well-respected commission. They will take their own call. So we have to, again, leave by putting the correct narrative on board. We can avoid all the, shall I say, the hyperbole and the fears that are raised that somebody is going to get ST status, somebody is not going to get ST status, and so on. In fact, even among the Metis, if I remember right, and I know from a lot of, about even today, 50% of the Metis are undecided whether they want ST status at all. So, leave it for, there is a statutory process under the Constitution of India. We should leave it that and not raise hyperbole for that. And I think what is most essential now is what we call as exclusive histories. We have to now start, in fact, in our textbooks and so on, which is said, exclusive histories have to now become inclusive histories. The Manipur history is Meitei history, Naga history, Kuki history, Zomi history, different tribes, all of them are, that is the Manipur narrative. It has to come. And this will come only stage by stage. Stage by stage you will get. And that is why, when I put it, first aspect, of course, is the state is one sense to impose. You cannot have state having weapons and hundreds of thousands of other people having weapons. No peace, whether you like it anyway or not. But you have to do it in a phased manner where nobody feels that if one community is being disarmed, the other community is not being disarmed. It's something like, I would put it that you should give actually something like give us 7 days notice to it, say all those who have their weapons should surrender the weapons. And then see, give them time. And after that, if you find people with weapons, all under the Arms Act and other things, you should now take very strict action you should take. You have enough police, you have enough CRPF to be able to provide that basic security. You have to give compensation to those who are in the displaced, in the camps, the people, the health facilities and so on. Very large sense, both from the government of India itself. I think health teams should be, you should have at least 10 or 12 health teams in Manipur from hospitals around India into Manipur to provide the status. Nobody even reports that. I think, if I'm not mistaken, at least my sources tell me that something like about 16 people in the displaced camps have committed suicide, mainly women. That news doesn't come out. That in spite of all the Supreme Court orders, in spite of all this thing, compensation has not been given to most people, and they are surviving on the goodwill of and the support from the community, both sides. The Meitei civil society and the civil society among the hill tribes, they are the ones who are giving the maximum help to not the state government, which is actually the primary responsibility of the state government. For the time being, I think you have to have a temporary rehabilitation in situ itself till such time as trust and the law and order situation is improved, because there's no use saying that, the Meiteis are not going to go to Churachandpur. I don't think anybody in Churachandpur who came away from Imphal any Kuki is going to come to Imphal in the near future. That's a reality. We have to live with that. And so for each step we have to take is to build that trust. We have to give much greater role to civil society. The civil society groups all over, both in the valley and in the hill districts. They have to now start becoming active in the sense that the government has to say that we want you to come forward and help us build the trust between the groups. Because there are there's inter-community marriages between, between Meiteis and Kukis, Meiteis and Nagas, Meiteis and Paitheis and so on. There are so many inter-community marriages which have taken place. And they are the ones who are actually feeling the pain of both sides. They don't know where they are. But if they can get married and they can live happily, why can't the rest also do? But it takes time. And I think that is important. I think it's very important, even though we keep saying what is the Judicial Commission going to do, but the Judicial Commission must give its report. In India, there is very, very high respect for the judiciary in terms of, so a Judicial Commission which gives its report, to an extent, it has a weight. So if it says that X, these are the corrective steps to be taken, it needs to be done. And I think the chairman of I think the media has to, I think that's the role for the media, to actually now start interviewing the chairman of the Judicial Commission and say, what have you been doing last 21 months? Why can't you submit your report? What's your problem? And if he says, I've got ABCD problems, highlight it in the news and say that this is why they can't do it. But this is important. If you don't give enough of the news, which is the actual, what I call as the truth in society which takes place, so each one of these issues which I said, you got the forest issue, you got ST status, you got the land issue, you got another large issue which I didn't want to mention is again both the delimitation and census. Nagaland and Manipur, I think, the only two states in India which have not done that delimitation so far. The rest of India have done it, including Kashmir. Now, if you don't do delimitation, which should have taken place with the 2021 census, but if the 2026 or 2025 census doesn't take place, and I'm not so very sure it's there because I find that the budget in the finance budget is been 50% reduced from last year's budget. So there is a feeling, if you look at it purely from that, and not a single word about the census in the budget speech of the finance minister, it means possibly the census is not being done at all. And if you don't do census, if you don't have facts, how much population is there in every village and so on, then it's anybody's guess. He says this is the population, somebody says that's the population, and everybody is quoting the 2011 census figures and giving some other figure today. Nobody knows the facts. So the completion of the census and the delimitation are two very critical issues, because they have a bearing, a political issue, but even if you are slightly pushing it away till the building of the trust, but you have to do this, because that is the way. If your census comes out and then you know that, okay, the actual census comes out and then you say, okay, there is a very large illegal immigration, or there is no illegal immigration, or the illegal immigration only 2,000 or 3,000, then it's not a major factor. If it's illegal immigration runs into lakhs, it's a problem. So if you don't have the facts, then it's again rumor mongering and narratives by various people, then becomes the tail on which you are. And I mentioned again other issues, like I mentioned the district formation and re-district formation, etc., are all issues that can again create problems which you don't want that to happen. So you have to keep that in the back of your mind, and let us try and it's only let me tell you, nobody from outside is going to solve your problem in Manipur. They will solve your problem in terms of giving you what we call as the background and the background support, but your problem has to be solved by the people of Manipur themselves, by everybody. Insecurity is there. I mean, I've always talked about, in my from my 2012 thing, I've talked about how the insecurity is there, and the insecurity is Maithis feel insecure, the Nagas feel insecure, the Kukis feel insecure, everybody feels insecure, and that's why you have all these issues which come up. But you have to address all those issues. If you keep pushing all the issues down, we'll discuss it later, we'll do it later, then you run into some problems at one point of time. And I think that is very, very critical for us to be able to take that issue. And from the Government of India, I really want the point is that the Government of India has to realize that this is not just an issue of Manipur, it's a national security issue. The drugs coming into India is a national problem. It's not a problem of Manipur alone. The figures that have been given to me by very authoritative sources is that the consumption of drugs in India today is 1 ton per day in India, consumption. Earlier we used to be a transit point and the drugs would go out to other countries in the world. Today we are consuming 1 ton per day, and we are seizing 3% of the drugs, which when you hear a seizure and say 5,000 crores, 6,000 crores, the total seizures is 60,000 crores. That 60,000 crores is 3% of the total which is coming into India. So you can imagine the problem it is there. And it's not just a Manipur problem. It's a problem in Punjab, it's a problem in Kerala, because outside high schools in Kerala and schools in Kerala, drugs are being sold. And they are coming from the Golden Triangle the other way. It is a major problem. And for the DG, NCB and others, it's a major problem. So we can't afford to be slack on this. It's a border. You've got Myanmar and you've got China. Many of the drug rings within Myanmar are all controlled by Chinese warlords. So if you leave your border vulnerable, they'll take full advantage of it. Therefore, it's very, very critical for us to ensure that this is stopped and this is sort of tackled on a top priority. It's not a cookie problem, it's not a Methe problem, it's not this thing. It's a national problem. It's a national security problem in many cases. And that is what is essential. And I'll close with just the point that all of you, especially all of you in civil society who are in dealing with at all your levels, Please reach out to your counterparts, to your friends, to your relations, to your any colleagues and so on and so forth, to get them to start interacting more and more with each other. We need that, what I call as the socialization of different communities in Manipur to increase dramatically. You cannot live isolated in pockets and then hope that problem will not be there. We have to understand each other, we have to live together, we have to solve our problems together. I think that's really my message to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pillai, for sharing those very, very important thoughts and insights. And I'm glad you brought up one aspect about the Judicial Commission. Before I invite Advocate Prashant Bhushan to come on stage, I want to also share that within the Supreme Court also, despite orders passed by the Chief Justice of India back in August and September 2023, almost nothing has been done. One aspect which nobody talks about is that besides the committee which was appointed, the Supreme Court also appointed a special officer as the link between the committee and themselves to focus only on the criminal aspect of everything that's happened in Manipur. The special officer was former DGP Mr. Dattatreya Patsalgikar, and he was instructed clearly in the order, and I have a copy of the order here. This was after my IA filed on the weapons which had been handed over. It was clearly instructed that Mr. Dattatreya Patsalgikar will ensure that FIRs are filed, and IPC sections were also given, which included waging war against the country, which included all sections under UAPA, which included sections under the Arms Act, and every important section of the IPC. But where are we today? I think it also needs to come to the public's knowledge, and the public needs to ask, where is the special officer, and what has actually resulted in those FIRs? I'm also glad that you brought up the question about the census, because it is very, very important, and without the census, it's unfathomable how we move ahead in the right direction. On that note, I would once again thank you, and I request the audience to give a warm applause to Mr. Pillai, and also a warm welcome to Mr. Prashant Bhushan, Advocate Prashant Bhushan, to come on stage. As we all know, Mr. Bhushan doesn't need an introduction, but it is important to state that the audio tapes which were leaked and which the case is now going on, Advocate Prashant Bhushan is the one who is leading that in the court. It was also Mr. Prashant Bhushan to whom I had very first shared a brief note back in August, July 2023. The note was titled WMDs, Weapons of Mass Destruction, based on the amount of weapons which had been handed over. About 5,500 guns had been handed over by that time. So without waiting further, thank you, Mr. Bhushan, for being here. Over to you.
Thank you, Samir. You've heard from very eminent people who are much more knowledgeable than me about not just Manipur, but about how the country functions in general. I'll just speak on a limited aspect on the basis of my limited knowledge and experience. Of course, as General Chauhan pointed out, the history of this problem goes back several hundred years. Not this particular problem, but the problem of conflict in the Northeast in general and Manipur in particular goes back several hundred years, and there are many reasons, etc., for that. I can only say one thing in response to that. I don't want to go into any at any length on that issue. I just want to say that I feel I have always been of the view that one of the things that we need across the country is decentralization of power. So greater autonomy to the different states, greater autonomy to the different regions within states, etc. But every state, every region, every ethnic group has to act within the bounds of the Constitution. So the Constitution and all the rights and values enshrined in the Constitution have to be accepted and indeed imposed on everybody. No tribe, no ethnic group can say that we will not go on the basis of the Constitution. While of course we should have as much decentralization of power as possible, but everybody has to act within the bounds of the Constitution. So this is a general principle that I have always believed, and I feel that if that was applied. The other thing that I have always believed is that these national boundaries that have been carved across the world, they are largely artificial and they need to be done away with. Of course, with sovereign national countries and sovereign national governments, it is not possible to do away with them right now, but I think that in the long run, we have to move towards a situation where these national boundaries dissolve. Coming to the problem that has arisen in the last 21 months in Manipur, you see, there may be historical reasons as to why it caught fire so quickly and so on and so forth, but there is no doubt whatsoever, as Mr. Pillai said, that this current problem and almost genocide was fueled firstly by the local chief minister, the Manipur chief minister and his cohorts trying to fuel. So it's a pattern that you will see in Manipur, which is part of a general pattern that we are seeing in this country as well, which is to divide and rule. So while you see at the national level an attempt by the BJP and their cohorts to polarize and divide the country between Hindus and Muslims, Hindus and Christians, Hindus and Sikhs, etc., and because they feel that if they just rely on the Hindu vote, by this dividing they can rule the country if they succeed in getting Hindu votes. The same formula was attempted by this Biren Singh in Manipur, that is, divide the people broadly between Mitayas and Kukis. Mitayas being the majority population, and the way to divide them would, in his evil mind, was to fuel the insurgency, fuel the violence, create a totally chaotic, lawless situation, the same kind of thing that Netanyahu is doing in Israel. It's the mind of an evil person that you see in those tapes which have been leaked. In those tapes, he is boasting. This is a meeting that is happening in his office, in which several Mitai leaders are present, and he is boasting to them that he allowed these Mitai insurgents to get weapons from the armories of the state, that he protected them from being arrested by the central forces, etc., even from the Manipur police, etc. He is just boasting about how he has fueled the insurgency there. Now, it's quite remarkable that even after these tapes came out, of course, all these facts would have been known to the central government and the central leadership right from the beginning. In fact, one of the parts of the conversation which has leaked out, and these were recorded some more than 6 months ago, 8, 9, 10 months ago. When this chief minister, when this home minister came to Manipur, and he tells this, this fellow Biren Singh is boasting that the home minister came and he told me, "Oye, tum bam marta hai? Tum log bam marta hai?" And he said ki, I told him ki nahi, bam nahi marta hai, nahi marega. Lekin he says ki I told the police people and the insurgents, bam maro, lekin छुपा के. So he is openly boasting about how he has armed the rebels, armed the insurgents, how he has protected them, how he has even asked the state apparatus to use mortars, etc., against the Kuki population. This was known to the central government long ago, right from the beginning. But the question is, why did the central government allow this fellow who clearly, if there was ever a case for imposing president's rule or for removing this man, this was it. You cannot have a person who is openly boasting that I have armed these rebels, I have allowed them to loot the armory, I have protected them from being arrested, etc., to continue as chief minister. And yet he was allowed to continue. And this shows the failure. He was allowed to continue for 21 months until finally a report of Truth Labs, which is by far the most credible forensic laboratory in the country, more credible than any central scientific forensic laboratory. In fact, the CFSL labs consult Truth Labs for difficult cases. The CBI has consulted them, the courts have consulted them, everybody. And they gave a very detailed report that yes, this is his voice, this is the voice of Biren Singh, who's boasting about all these things. And then they realized that it has become untenable for them to continue with this man. But you see, this shows the failure of all our institutions at several levels. Which were the institutions which should have acted long ago? Firstly, the governor. The governor should have immediately recommended that this is a fit case where the government of the state cannot be run in accordance with the constitution. Then the central government should have immediately either removed him or imposed president's rule. But why was the central? Of course, the governor, we all know, are just pawns in the hands of the central government. This BJP government has reduced virtually every institution, and in particular governors, to just pawns in their hands. Even this vice president or the speaker are just pawns in their hands. These are supposed to be constitutional authorities, but they are pawns in the hands of the central government. And why was the central government so keen to retain this man? Firstly, because he was playing to the same playbook, and as Mr. Pillai said, he was not merely dividing the Mitais and the Kukis, he was also dividing Hindus and Christians there. And this was the playbook that the central government plays with. This is the playbook that they have been playing with across the country for the last 10 years. They feel that this is the only way for them to retain power in this country, to divide and rule. So this was one reason. But the other reason also Mr. Pillai mentioned. Manipur is an important center of drug trade and drug smuggling in this country. And it is widely believed that Mr. Biren Singh is directly involved in this drug trade. In fact, one of his former ADGPs said so openly, one lady, in an interview. Now, and it is also widely believed that Biren Singh has been using the money that he is generating through this drug trade and drug smuggling to pay off people in the central government who have therefore been protecting him. There is also a failure of the judiciary in this. Judiciary is the next most important, actually it is the most important institution in this country to ensure the rule of law, to ensure that every institution functions within the bounds of its powers, and to ensure that every institution acts. This case was before the Supreme Court since August, or even earlier, since May 2023. It was absolutely crystal clear that the rule of law had collapsed and that the state government, it was absolutely crystal clear to the Supreme Court that the rule of law in Manipur had completely collapsed and that the chief minister there was running a rogue regime, absolutely criminal regime. And yet the Supreme Court did not act, did not do anything other than appointing some committees, etc., which did nothing, which just twiddled their thumbs and did nothing. It didn't even bother to ask what this Judicial Commission had done for so many years. It didn't bother to ask what happened or to even try and find out how these arms came to be looted from the armories of the state. Nothing. Ultimately, of course, in this case, when we went with these tapes of this Biren Singh, the court said, give us some evidence to show that these tapes are genuine. Then we sent the tapes to the Truth Labs, which gave a detailed 25-page report after doing a very elaborate forensic analysis, saying that yes, this is his voice, and the tapes are without a break. The relevant part of the conversations are without a break. Only then it became untenable for them to continue with this man. And it also shows the failure of the media to a very large extent. Of course, media has also a handicap. Manipur has been made into a completely lawless state. It's like the Wild West. And it's difficult for any honest, independent media person or journalist to operate from Manipur. It's become very difficult. So therefore, it's not easy. But of course, the problem also is that most of the media has been reduced to what is called the Godi media, which sits in the lap of the government and does exactly what the government wants. Most of the mainstream media doesn't function as media anymore, as independent media anymore. So therefore, Manipur is a stark example of how it shows the failure of every regulatory institution in this country. How this central government has subverted virtually every regulatory institution in this country and has reduced this country into almost the Wild West, where anything goes, anything can be done to anybody, particularly the minorities, nobody will be held accountable, etc. Of course, this Biren Singh has been asked to resign. He is gone now. Perhaps they did so thinking that they'll make him governor, so he will enjoy some kind of immunity from prosecution. But it is absolutely essential that he be made accountable. Such a mass murderer and criminal cannot be allowed to get away scot-free without any accountability. That's all that I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
It's very, very difficult to speak after such a senior panel. And I'm going to take a little bit of time to share about my experience in the last 2 years. Sure. So before you leave, I want to share an important aspect. You spoke about some changes in constitution, and my experience primarily has been that I was fighting this case in the Supreme Court since August 2023, when I filed the intervention application for related to the arms handover. Now, during this entire last almost good part of 2 years, one very important thing which emerged to me is that I really think that our writers of our constitution forgot certain things and aspects which need rectification. One big example of that is that they didn't anticipate or think about it, that there is something which is above even the Chief Justice of India in this country. And that immediately above the Chief Justice of India is the Supreme Court registry, which doesn't list cases. You'd be surprised to know, ladies and gentlemen, in the last court hearing, which was held on the 9th of December, which was almost 1 year after the previous hearing, which also we got after begging for a month and a half by requesting the court again and again, can we reduce the lights a little bit? I think it's hurting the panelists' eyes, if that's possible. In the last hearing, 9th of December, the Chief Justice of India, during the hearing, in court and in written order, says, list the matter for the week of 20th of January. It's written in the order. He said it in court during the hearing. 20th of January was 1 month ago. The Supreme Court registry hasn't listed the matter. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, the Supreme Court registry and the registrars are above even the Chief Justice of India in this country today. And that's the reason why justice has become lapata in this country. Another very important aspect is that it was very obvious even a civilian, it was obvious to me that martial law needed to be imposed in Manipur in May 2023 itself, when you have so much arms and ammunition handed over. People in this country do not know, because media hasn't shown, that as on date, more than 7,000 guns have been handed over, 7 lakh bullets, and nearly 14,500 bombs have been handed over. That's what an army battalion uses. Please correct me, General Chauhan, or maybe that's also lesser than what an entire battalion would use. And that's the reason why the other aspect of this being a case of national security collapsed. That our entire defense budget for the last 75 years has been wasted, whether it is our internal security budget or whether it is our defense budget, because today even our armed forces are now at the risk and already losing their lives because of these guns. Additionally, what is happening is, and I came to know about this from an interview by General Shaukin. Interview was on gunners shot by General P.R. Chauhan, P.R. Shankar, I apologize, wherein General Shaukin has clearly said that 90% of these arms handed over are with the Meitei Lipun and the Arambai Tengol. And the Arambai Tengol is now openly and proudly and publicly opening branches across the country. Immediately upon learning this, that the very first branch had been opened in the national capital, where the NIA, CBI, RAW, Delhi Police, Northeast Wing, every single agency is headquartered here. So the very first branch the Arambai Tengol opens is in Delhi, then the next is in Chandigarh, then in West Bengal. And I wrote to every single government that this is what has happened. The Aam Aadmi Party government here, in Punjab, the DGPs, the Delhi Police Commissioner, the DGP of West Bengal, government of West Bengal, but nothing was done. So violence and these arms may already be across the country. But not only across the country, today these arms are already being exported outside the country. And there are reports from even as early as 2023 that these arms are being sent out. So these arms can not only be used for creating violence within the country, but for harming people outside the country as well. So it's a total collapse of law and order, and there has to be accountability. Sure. 5 minutes. The president rule has been imposed, and the question is that today the governor is Mr. Ajay Bhalla. Now I want to just quickly mention a few things about Mr. Ajay Bhalla. While the armories could not be secured, it was under the same Home Secretary that a war was waged against the farmers who were coming to Delhi to protest. Borders were fortified, but we could not fortify our armories. For almost 2 years, nothing was done by the Home Ministry. Even in the tapes which have emerged, the conversation is clearly that the Home Minister goes and says, "Ki tum bam marta hai, bam mat maro." But that means the Home Minister knew that this is what is happening, and still they did not immediately take the action. But even if they didn't know from Biren Singh, who the Home Minister called the Chief Minister's cooperating, so he became not the Chief Minister, the Cooperation Minister, why the government stayed silent? The Prime Minister had the time to go on foreign visits, but not meet his own party MLAs also here in Delhi, who came to meet him right in 2023. So the accountability has to start right at the top. And I've said it clearly and openly that if we want to resolve this problem, the rule of law has to come, and the rule of law has to start right at the top. The army, as we know, our speakers have shared, that they are operating with their hands tied back. Hopefully that will change now. Another interesting thing which came to my knowledge in these last 1.5 years was how the court really functions. And one important aspect was in the last hearing, again on December 9th, the Solicitor General of India, on my application that Arambai Tengol is opening branches across the country, says to the court, Lordship, this is a Sikh gentleman with a Christian name, runs a business chamber, and lives in Pitampura. He has no locus in the matter. While at the same time, in June 2024, the same Solicitor General appeared before a United Nations committee in Geneva, which was reviewing India's accreditation to the Human Rights Council. And this very same Solicitor General, and I quote, has said that in India, in matters of public interest, one does not even need to prove their locus in constitutional courts of India. Just a few months later, in my own case, he says in court, and the court number 1 of the country. So what does that prove? It proves that India, the Solicitor General, and the Attorney General lied under oath in the United Nations committee, which they were co-leading. And I was forced to file a police complaint that our Solicitor General and our Attorney General have lied in the United Nations. And there are ample videos of the Solicitor General going about sharing that this person doesn't have locus, that person doesn't have locus. But if a citizen of this country doesn't have locus in a matter of violence and terrorism, then who does? The Constitution of India is a contract between the government and the citizens. And today that contract is completely demolished. You can't speak, you can't protest. I called for a protest and numerous protests. The Delhi police doesn't let people even raise their voice on important issues. Sure. So it is time we hold every single individual accountable, starting right from the president, the prime minister, the national security advisor, the home minister, the home secretary, the previous home secretary. Now he's been transferred to Manipur. And make this country run by law and not somebody's will and fancies. There's a lot more that I would want to state and say. Maybe later, our panelists would like to take on some questions. Anybody in the audience has any question? We have a mic around. Please ask, introduce yourself, and ask a direct question. And please make it a question, not a lengthy monologue or commentary. Okay, so you can also make a comment. Anybody who wants, can I request the mic to be passed on to the gentleman in the, yeah, his hand is up right there.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to put some question. Actually, I would like to ask Mr. Prashant Bhushan, but he left for the day. I think whatever he said is, first of all, I feel he is the anti-BJP, number one. Secondly, he, if I'm not wrong, he fight the case in favor of cookie in the Supreme Court. Definitely he will speak against the BJP government or maybe against the Mr. Biren. So this is one thing. So anyways, I'm not going to put a question on that. My question is, we talk about the immigrant, 2,000 or 3,000 something it was told. But as per the census report in 1961, it was 439 million population in Manipur. In 2011, it is 1,210 million population. So I think it is around 275.63% the population growth during the 51 years in Manipur. So my question is, how this 275.61 population increased in the very short period like 51 years? This is my question. Thank you very much.
I'm not too sure about the figures, but in 2011, I was the Union Home Secretary when the 2011 census was done. And we did see from the 2001 census and in the 2011 census, even complaints had come both in Manipur and from Nagaland that the actual population of the village shown in the census was much higher than the population of that place. It happened because three reasons which, one for showing there are a lot of Government of India schemes which are linked to the population of the village. So there was a lot of duplication of names. Second, many people in some of these areas, and this is only by anecdotal I'm telling, they had, if they went to Kohima or they went to Imphal, they had a vote there, and they had their vote back in their village also. So you got 2 votes. So the population sure is 2. And that is why when we did the census in Senapati, Tamenglong and all that, very rigorous counting and rechecking was done, which is why in many villages, in between the 2001 census and the 2011 census, actually the population has come down, because all the duplication was removed in the 2011 census. We are hoping that when you do the next census in 2025, which was promised, if it is done that, then I think, and if they are very careful, then I think the actual figures will stabilize.
You spoke of 51 and 2011. All right, so I have the figures from 51 to 2011. The population of Manipur state has risen 5-fold from 1951 to 2011. And the population of Kukis amongst them has also seen about the similar rise. So I don't know where do you get your figures from. These are from the census. The population increase is similar. You take India, for instance, 44 crores was said to be the Indian population at the time of partition. And now we are 142, 43 crores. So population rise is a natural phenomena. And the increase in population has been proportionate, whether those be total population, whether those be the population of Meiteis or also of Kukis or Nagas. So population rise is proportionate.
Hello. Yeah. My name is Mr. Pauja Hup Guite. Actually, I want to direct my comment or my question to Prashant Bhushan, but unfortunately he is no more here with us. But then I will try. Actually, I want to explicate the etymological meaning of genocide. I'm so happy for him for using the term genocide than ethnic cleansing. It's not ethnic cleansing this time. Yeah, to an extent, I agree. During Naga-Kuki conflict time in the 90s. Because during that time, if I were to adopt Naga identity, I would not be killed. But this time, let me go to Imphal Valley and say, let me change my ethnicity from Kuki to Meitei. They won't spare me. They will just kill me. They are shouting like this. Kuki Hatsi, Kuki Tumna Hatsi. The best Manipuri translation for genocide is Tumna Hatsi. So, this time, it is purely genocide. They want to remove the genes of the Kukis. That's what I meant by genocide. Ethnic cleansing means I can change my ethnicity. I can adopt the ethnicity of my taste, but then they won't allow me. What they are looking for is to kill the Kukis, Kuki Tumna Hatsi. But the Kukis have never, even a single person or a group or a coterie of Kuki people have never said, Meitei Hatsi. So that's what genocide means, according to me. But in terms of characteristics of genocide, I'm not much well versed about these genocide studies, but as far as etymology of the term genocide is concerned, this time is purely The chief minister himself says he is the one who perpetrated genocide. Please enlighten me if you can more explicate the meaning of genocide and ethnic cleansing vis-a-vis this conflict. Thank you.
I think it's important for us now. We are in a situation where we are looking to move forward. At least in my opinion, I think we are nowhere near the question of anywhere near what you would call as genocide issue comes in at all in this issue. There was a particular narrative which I mentioned, which resulted in a particular community being targeted. There was reaction, counter-reaction, violence on both sides, and anywhere where this sort of thing takes place over a period of time, all sides become brutal. You've seen that, whether it's Israel and Palestinians and so, both sides, both countries have become very brutal. They've lost all humanity, both sides, because they can't see. They have one side, they can't, and the other side. So that is where a real. We should not come into that position at all. This is still, should I say, an area where communities have to start living together. You can't. This is a world where we are moving both within India and within Manipur, and you have to now start seeing how best we can move forward. That is why I said it's so important for communities to start talking to each other. You have to talk to each other. Even if you want to, autonomy is fine. You can have all sorts of autonomous features are there in different parts of the country. But personally for me, I would not classify this as genocide by any means. So I think we should not. Genocide is much larger issue. I don't think anywhere where 200 people are killed, it's a genocide. But let's try and look forward. Today now we've got one of your demands from your side. One of the first demands was Viren Singh should go, and that only we can talk. Now Viren Singh has gone. Our President's rule has come. Both sides, we hope that now there is need for both sides to show what I call as generosity of spirit to try and start the healing process. It's going to take time. It's going to take quite a lot of time and quite a lot of effort from both communities. And we have to look forward, because it's a human people. There are people in Delhi who are just crying to go back home. Some are saying we can't go back to Imphal, at least let us go back to Churachandpur. So, this is the level at which people are. There are old people who are saying, I don't want to die in Delhi, I want to go back and I'd rather die in my home state. So, everybody is looking at Manipur as a state. Everybody speaks Manipuri. There are lots of relationships which are there. Let's try and build on those and move forward.
My name is Gladys.
Just a minute. 1 minute.
I'll just add to what Mr. Pillai has said. I visited relief camps in Churachandpur, in Kangpokpi. I have also visited relief camps in the valley. Therefore, I visited relief camps where Cookies reside, who've been displaced from their homes. And I have been to camps where the Maitis reside, who've been displaced from their homes. The one common refrain that I heard in every camp that I visited was, when I asked them that what is the one thing that you want? They said, we want to go home. And how do you think that will happen? how do you think all those who've been displaced from their homes, whose homes have been destroyed, their fields have been burnt, their places of religious worship have been destroyed, how will they ever return home if we keep talking about our differences? This is time for all of Manipur to celebrate its uniqueness and to celebrate what you have in common. And we don't have to thump our chests on things that we don't share. We have to talk about things that we share. All of us are Indians. There are differences between people everywhere, both in terms of customs, in terms of language, in terms of what we eat, what we wear. But I think it's time that we bury the hatchet and try and reconstruct our lives and the lives of those who are living in these relief camps and their children. Rather than dwell on what has happened in the past, nobody is condoning what happened. The violence that took place in Manipur and the people who perpetrated it must be brought to justice. There can't be any two opinions on that. But let's not turn this into a tug of war into who is worse. Let's turn this into a contest of who is going to be more giving. Is what I beseech all of you to do. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Gladys. I really thank all of you for highlighting the history of Manipur. I'm from Manipur, but I'm not a Manipuri lady. So you have to understand, there's also a vast difference between I'm from Manipur, but I'm not a Manipuri lady. And also, not everyone in Manipur speak Manipuri. And even among the Meitei, the new language that they have found out, I would say even 10% knows that language. So all this fact has to be taken into consideration. And also, if you look at the way this violence was erupted, I want to say it is a pre-planned, premeditated genocide. Why I say this is because most of you may not know that the village chief of the cookie paper, original paper handed down to them, was collected. Collected those papers in the name of government agents. All those original paper that was given to a cookie chief was collected and burned in Imphal Valley in the office so that they can destroy the evidence, number one. Number two, all the homes of Kukizo in Imphal Valley were marked red color in the name of Smart City Survey. If this was not a pre-planned, premeditated, how on earth are all these houses marked? Number three, 100% of Kukizo living in Imphal Valley, nobody is farmer. Why are their houses burned? Why are the churches destroyed completely? They are not public cultivator. They are not even illegal immigrants. They are nobody compared to these three narratives. They are not in that category. But why today? Everybody fled Imphal Valley and all their homes destroyed. Number four, all the homes and the churches right now in the valley, some are burnt, some are completely destroyed, some are half standing. Those are now illegally occupied by them. They are the one who does illegal job. Yes, they are occupied. The church is used as a picnic spot. Children homes that used to run orphanage is used by offices of those people. Check it out. And number five is the lies that is spread across the media, across our country has to be corrected. Very, very much corrected. A lot of narratives have gone wrong in this genocide. And then before the violence started, our single bearer gun, licensed gun that was given by the government to protect our villages were collected. Each and every gun was collected. And now, my request to all the panelists is, please help us recover all these papers of our village. That's the only document we have, that we are the landowner. Please find out the original paper and help us so that we can live on happily. And my last point is there is no living back with the Métis, and they are the one who chase us out, and all the churches of Métis, Christian churches in the valley are burned by the Métis themselves, because in 6 days, all the Kukiso were wiped out and they were all staying in the army camp. Not even a single soul, including my family, step out even an inch of the army camp. Thank you.
See, I just want to see, it's easy for us to keep on saying what we call as in Hindi, it's called, tu meme. Keep on. See, I want to say, see, if there has been properties in the valley which have been destroyed, occupied by the, you correct me if I'm wrong, but many of the Methi houses and property which were there in, say, in Churachandpur and so on, so the cookies have done the same. They've also destroyed, they've leveled the place, etc., so that there's no evidence, etc. Both sides are doing it. But is that what you want to do? That is what you have to see. See, I am only saying that both, as Justice said, in the camps, the people who are in the camps are saying we want to go back home. It may be difficult at the moment, but that is their aim. They all want to go back home. So let us try and see whether we can work back to get them back home. Maybe not all of them will go back home. Some of them will not go back home because they've been so traumatized they will not go back home. Maybe. But that should be our aim. We cannot say that we'll have this complete separation of populations and then expect that things will be normal again. It will not be normal again. That's the point which I was trying to say. I'm not saying that many of you don't, everybody has got, you have suffered, everybody has got family members who have suffered, some have suffered personally, but we have to now look forward and move forward to the next stage. If we keep on looking back only at what we suffered, then we run into problems. We can keep repeating the same record player again and again.
Can I ask a question before anybody else asks? Yeah. So the one question is that from May, and my question is addressed to Justice Mridul as well as Mr. Pillai, both of you. From May 2023, who was actually in charge of Manipur? Because a advisor was sent from the center, the DGP was sent from the center. So this question comes up again and again, that was the state government directly in charge since May 23, or the center had taken charge? There was also this conversation about an order which was issued, which gave central government the power. So can we please have some light on that?
No, see, there were reports that, Article 355 had been imposed, and that is the ground on which the advisor was appointed, and he has an office in the Chief Minister's office. He's got an office there and so on. The Home Minister had said Article 355 was not imposed. That's the reply he has given in a Parliament question. So we have to say that Article 355 is not imposed. At one point, the Chief Minister had mentioned it, that yes, Article 355 was there, but he didn't provide any proof, and he subsequently backtracked from that, and he also said that Article 355 is not imposed. Now, whether an advisor posted by the center, etc., it's a matter for if the state government feels comfortable having an advisor, it's fine. I mean, you've got advisors not just here, you've got in other states also. If you see in Assam, there's an advisor to the who has come from another state and been advisor there to the chief minister and so on. So that is, I think we leave it to the state. State government is responsible for law and order until such time as the president's rule takes over. So state is fully responsible under the constitution for law and order, and you can't escape that responsibility. You can ask for central forces, they may give you, they may not give you, but having given you, They are under your control.
Justice Mridul.
De jure, the state, as Mr. Pillai said, is responsible for law and order. But de facto in Manipur, you are aware that there is still a security advisor appointed to the state of Manipur. And the security advisor chaired all the important meetings in relation to law and order. And he was, in fact, responsible for law and order in the state of Manipur. You are aware of that. It's a statement of fact. And the previous Chief Minister on a number of occasions has publicly stated that the security advisor is in charge of law and order and that his control over the law and order situation is subject to the advice of the security advisor. It's a factual situation. But de jure, the state government, elected state government, are the ones who are responsible.
Sure. 5 minutes. Any
Sir,
last question?
Can I, sir? One more. Please, sir. Yeah, let me, Okay, sir, my name is Sangeeta. And coming to the point, genocide, what I feel is that on the 3rd May, 20, then on the 3 or 4 days like that, genocide doesn't happen in Manipur. What I feel is that, because if it happens to the Kukis, then actually it happens to the Meiteis also. Because those who are residing in the side where Kukis are dominating there, the Meiteis are also facing the same problem the Kuki face in the Imphal area. That was something like, we cannot call it genocide. That is what I feel, sir. Then coming to the point, sir, GK.
Let's please.
See, sir, I don't want to make a fight here with you. Okay, sir, let me
Let's not speak over each other.
Yeah,
My
sir,
friends, let's not.
And one more thing, sir.
Let's not.
Sir, can I say something, sir?
Let's not speak over each other, please.
Let me put my question rather than I am answering to him.
Yeah.
Because I'm not answerable to him at all.
1 minute, can you please
please,
hold
sir.
on?
Thank you,
My
please.
request to everyone is, let's not please speak over each other. And also, if you have a specific question, and instead of
I have a specific question. That's why I raised my hand, sir. Then what I'm saying is that, like, whatever they are saying that we told them that cookie tum nahasi. That is, the cookies also says the same thing about that. That was out of anger. Both sides we are saying in that time. So what we are saying is that, sir, I would like to come to GK Pillai, sirji. As you are saying that in 1993. Classes in Manipur had already it has happened earlier also between the Kukis, between the Nagas and Meitei, whatever it is. But things never happened like this earlier. Why is it so? Because we, from the very beginning, we are telling to the central government that this is all happening because of the central government, because of the central government is happening in Manipur. So we have been raising our voice towards the central government only. But why? The Kuki feel that the Meiteis, we are the one who make them suffer. Are we not suffering? We are also suffering as much as they are suffering. They are suffering for the medical purpose as well as we are also suffering for our livelihood. We don't have proper food. There is a bottleneck. Imphal Belt is a valley. So it has to come through by passing the Nagas place and Kukis place. If they blockade it,
What is your question, please?
My question is, why, sir, the Kukis are only blaming the Meiteis? The for the scheduled tribe also, we request to we have the right to raise our question to the scheduled tribe. So we raised the question. For that also, they started blaming to the Meiteis, and they started they started hurting the sentiments of the Meiteis. They also had to fight with the central government. We also had to fight with the central government. Who they are and who we are to fight to each other. So please, tell us, GK Pillai, a way out from here. So that there should be a neutral among us.
The question is not evident, and Mr. Please wait. 1 minute. No, 1 minute, please. 1 minute. Let Mr. Pillai speak.
When I spoke, one second. Let me just answer a question, then your turn.
We will.
When I spoke, I did mention that the issue of ST status for the Metis is a matter which the Metis can file an application before the ST Commission. Give whatever evidence they want, and it is the ST Commission that will take a view on the matter. It is not for the state government or the High Court or anybody to take a view. So I mentioned that in my speech. So that you're perfectly willing. Any other community who is not a ST, if they want to get ST status, they can make an application before the ST Commission. That is a constitutional right which every community has to make an application, and they do that all over India.
So, two of the speakers have decided that, it's in best interest of the entire issue that we close the conversation here. I, once again, thank all the speakers for taking out their most valuable and precious time. I also want to suggest to maybe the Supreme Court that today on this panel itself, we had 4 of the most illustrious and honest and credible people, and maybe a committee needs to be formed with them working towards resolving this issue in a manner that is in the best interest of not just Manipuris, not just the Northeast, but the entire country, because this matter impacts the entire country. And it has many layers, and all those layers from the roots have to be addressed. And this panel has the knowledge, the insight, and the wherewithal to work and resolve that. So another very important aspect which was brought up by the panelists is that the people of Manipur also need to take that call. That does your next generation also have to suffer? Does the new blood which is today being given arms, what will be the impact on the next few generations, not just the immediate next generation? From the aspect of poppy cultivation, I have a small suggestion which briefly I'm glad Mr. Sood also shared. Today, there is a huge opportunity in the climate sector. There is at least a $1 trillion opportunity in carbon credits. Anybody who's in poppy trade knows plantation, so maybe you can start planting trees and reap the benefits from carbon credits. Why plant something which can harm someone? Instead, plant trees which will save the environment, make the country better, and you can earn lots of money through carbon credit market itself. Besides immediate employment, every tree you plant, you get money, you can take care of it. You have to take the call whether you want to go the Bhutan way, which is carbon neutral, or you want to go the Burma way, where there's a war waging. So that's an option that you have to decide for your next generation. It is important that all our paramilitary forces, security forces are also taken care of, and this issue is resolved. I once again thank you all for attending and being here. Please, we are done. You can take the question outside. The panelists will be there. Please, a standing ovation and a big round of applause to our panelists. I also want to thank Major General Yash Moore, who was here. I want to thank Mr. Amreek Singh Pawa, who is a Manipuri and has written a book, Manipur of My Dreams. General Panag, who has been writing on Manipur. General Prakash Katoj, General P.R. Shankar. There are many who have contributed to ensuring that we get the insights needed. Thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen, and hopefully this will lead to the resolution that we need. Thank you and good night.